Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today you're checking out my brand new Stamina Warden PVE build. It's hard to say, PVE build. I'm calling this build Strider, and it can be used in a lot of different situations. It's great for solo PVE, whether you want to solo a dungeon, solo a world boss. You can also take it into dungeon groups just as easily, and maybe even do a little PvP as well. So we'll go over everything you need to know, from the stats to the gear to the skills and champion points, and maybe more coming up next. Alright, so Stamina Warden, let's go ahead and buff up here. Check out those stats. A lot of buffs here. There we go. Okay. So about 10k max magicka, 20k health is pretty decent. 38k max stamina, looking really strong. Stam recovery is 1400. That's without a potion and without considering the Betty niche. With all that, you're sitting more like 2k stam recovery, which is really solid. Weapon damage is 3.5k, but that's without our weapon, our berserker glyph on the back bar. So you'll be sitting right at about 4.2, 4.3k weapon damage. The weapon critical does go up with our green lotus buff, so about 40% is really good. And then the resistances are pretty standard, I would say, for a medium armor build, like 16k-ish. Went with everything into max stamina. As far as the Mundus here, I chose the warrior. Pretty obvious choice, I guess, for the Mundus stone on the Stam Warden. For the food, you can run Dubious. You can also run Artaeum Takeaway Broth if you can afford to pay that. And then the race is really kind of up to you, just a preference. I like Nords. I like the way they look. I like the stats. You could definitely go with Redguard would be really strong. Khajiit would be really strong. Any of the stamina races, really, you'll be good either way. And then as far as the potions, the nice thing about this build is you can just go with super cheap base stamina potions. You don't need the major brutality, you don't need major savagery, because we have that both in our kit as a warden. So just basic stam potions are perfect for this build. So let's check out the sets next, and I wanted to really go with something that was easy to obtain. This is pretty much a solo PvE build, so anything here you can get either solo or with just a basic group. So starting off with the first 5-piece set, we've got Spriggans. This is open world farmable gear. You can buy it in guild traders. Super easy to get. So we like this because of the double max stam bonus. Weapon damage bonus is nice, and then you can see the 5th piece gives you a nice bit of physical penetration. So I'm using this on my weapons. I've got a maul front bar. I've got a bow back bar. I'm using sharpened just because I didn't have the transmute stones. If I had enough stones, I would change this to Nirnhoned. You'd get quite a bit more extra weapon damage out of that, but sharpened is not bad. You could also go with infused. On the back bar, you definitely want an infused Spriggan's bow, and that's to proc that weapon damage bonus that I talked about. 450 plus, closer to 500 with all your buff stone in. Weapon damage every 5 seconds. And with the changes to how enchants work, this will be up 100% of the time, as long as you keep your bow skills up, so this is essential. If you don't have infused, I would look for it in a guild store, or even maybe spend the 50 gems to transmute your bow. It's definitely worth it. And then I'm just running the other pieces on my jewelry. Actually, I have some other pieces here. Whoops, I spoiled it. So let's talk about the second set. The second 5-piece set is going to be Draugr Hulk. And I did this set because I wanted just to push my max stamina as high as I could. So I don't even have Undaunted leveled on this character. You could definitely get over 40k max stamina using this set in addition to Spriggans. As you can see here, every bonus is max stamina. So basic stamina on the 2, 3, and 4, and then that nice bonus on the 5th piece. I think it's definitely worth it. Now this is a solo build, and the dungeon where this drops is soloable if you have the right build. I have another couple solo builds on my channel you might want to check out for doing that. But if not, you can definitely head into this Dire Frost Keep is the dungeon with a small group and get your pieces that way. So I'm just running, let's see, I'm running 2 rings, and the rings is a nice drop to get solo because it drops on, I want to say, the 2nd or 3rd boss, which is super easy to solo up to that point, and this is a named drop. So you can get 2 named rings for the set and just knock those out right away. Really easy to get. And then just use body pieces for whatever else. I have kind of a mix of traits here for PvP. Sorry, I'm so used to saying PvP. For PvE, Divines is definitely the way you want to go. Get as many Divine pieces as you can. And then all max stamina glyphs here. Weapon damage on all 3 jewelry pieces. As much weapon damage as you can pull there. The sustain is not an issue on the Stam Warden at all. It's going to be no problem. So 3 weapon damage glyphs. Stamina on the body pieces. I did decide though, because I am primarily going solo, to put in 2 health glyphs with the infused trait. And that was on my legs and on my chest. And this is what gets me with the Warden's maturation buff. This gets me to 20k health, which is really nice for soloing. Especially if you want to solo world bosses, if you want to solo dungeons, because those mobs tend to hit a little bit harder. You want that extra padding of health, I guess, on your character. If you're not concerned about that, if you're playing more with a group, then this can definitely be stamina. And then finally, our last set here is kind of up to you. For the solo player in PvE, I definitely like Bloodspawn. The reason why I like this, a couple reasons, is you get the nice stamina recovery bonus, which is great for a Stam Warden. And then this helps you kind of just take more damage and dish out more ultimates. You've got this nice 6k, over 6k physical and spell resistance that'll push your defenses really high when you're soloing a boss. And then you get that nice 14 ultimate back as well. So I do like this for solo play. If you're playing group, you can go with a more offensive set. You could do Celine's. You could do Velodreth. Those would be 2 other options for the group playstyle. Checking out the skills now. Let's jump into those. So on the front bar, we've got that 2-hander. And I went with Reverse Slice. This just does a lot of really big AoE damage. You can see 300% more on enemies less than 50% health. So that's big. Next up is Sub Assault, and this actually got buffed in the Murkmire patch. It's now pretty much like a spammable ability. If you look at the cost, 1700 is not bad at all, and you can see it does a ton of damage, 15,000 damage unbuffed right now on my tooltip, and it also does Major Fracture, so this is amazing. This into your Reverse Slice is going to do a ton of damage on just packs of mobs when you're fighting AoE trash trying to get around in a dungeon. Resolving Vigor, this is kind of a flex spot. If you are in a group, I don't think you need Resolving Vigor. You can put other things here. I like to actually put on Rearming Trap in this position. That's great for when you're in a group. You can just drop that down initially, get that nice buff of 10% crit damage, that minor force buff, and a nice dot too on a boss especially. So I do like subbing that out. If I am, though, fighting solo against like a difficult boss or difficult pull, I will put on Resolving Vigor just for a little bit of extra healing. Next up is our spammable, and I do different things here depending on the situation. So for a boss, I'm going to use Cutting Dive, and Cutting Dive does a nice bit of damage, 11k unbuffed on the tooltip for a very low cost. It's also helping to proc our Animal Companions passive, which let's look at really quick because this got buffed in Murkmire as well. So Advanced Species now does 3%, and you can see right here I have a 9% bonus overall on my front bar, which is really strong. That's stronger than Minor Berserk. So great to have that on any boss fight. Does really good single target damage. It also procs Bond with Nature, which is this 1300 heal. Every time you cast it, you get this heal back as well. So it's really good for self-healing as well. But if I am, let's say, fighting trash mobs, trash packs, I'll say, I do like, especially in harder dungeons, I do like Brawler. I will put Brawler in here for just the AoE damage. So it has this effect of a damage shield, 2500 damage for 8 seconds, and each enemy hit increases the shield's strength by 100%. So every enemy will give you that 2500 damage shield, which is really strong. Once you have this on and you have your AoEs going like Sub-Assault, Reverse Slice, this will basically keep you alive. If you're soloing a harder dungeon, big packs of mobs, this is what you want. So I will use that for AoE fights for sure. Next up, we've got Bird of Prey. This also got buffed in Murkmire. Warden's got tons of buffs. I'll put a link to my patch notes review for Warden in this video as well. Wardens are looking really strong, especially Stamina Warden. This is now a passive Minor Berserk buff. You can see there at the bottom of the tooltip, Minor Berserk, while slotted, increasing damage done by 8%. So this is huge. You want to have this on your front bar all the time. The Major Expedition doesn't really matter. You can push it if you want. Stamina recovery, you're going to have that from potions anyway. What you really want is the static Minor Berserk buff. So that's going to be up 100% of the time, which is awesome. And then for my ultimate here, I'm doing Flawless Dawnbreaker. I'm not going to use this most of the time unless it's at the end of the fight and I don't have enough ultimate for my other ultimate, which you'll see in a second. But what I like about this is it does 5% extra weapon damage. Weapon damage is increased by 5%, and you also get 3% passive from it being a Fighter's Guild skill. So 8% weapon damage boost on our front bar is really strong. Definitely want to use this. Okay, back bar. Starting off with Poison Injection. This is just a nice single target damage over time skill. You know it, you love it. Endless Hail is pretty important in PvE as far as taking down AoE mobs. Even soloing bosses, you'll get a lot of DPS from having Endless Hail on. So you want that up for sure. Green Lotus is this kind of a flex spot. I really do like this when soloing. You can see the healing here is massive. It also gives you Major Savagery, which is your 10% weapon critical buff, so that's really nice. But the healing is just incredible. 1400 on a light attack and over 4k health on a heavy attack. That's crazy. That really helps you stay alive when you're soloing out in the world, fighting a boss, whatever. If you're in a group and you don't have to worry about staying alive as much, you can definitely put Caltrops here for more DPS. Go for it. Really good group skill. Next up, we got Bullnetch, and this is just the Stamina Restore. This also got buffed in Murkmire, so it's doing 5,000 stamina over 27 seconds. That's roughly 400 stam regen. So that's why we said when we looked at the stats, we're over 2k stam regen because of Bullnetch. It doesn't show up in your tooltip, but it does provide a lot of sustain. So I love this skill. It also gives you Major Brutality, which is really good. That means you don't have to run that in your potion. You don't have to run Rally or something like that. So just a nice skill overall. Ice Fortress is great. You got the 8% minor protection. Got to use it. And then for the ultimate here, we went with Ballista. A little bit pricey, 175 ultimate, but the damage is nice. You can see 60k physical damage. That's without buffs right now. You just drop it, forget about it. It's great for boss fights. And last but not least, let's make sure we go over the champion points. That is pretty important for a solo PvE build. These have been updated for the Murkmire patch, so I think this is pretty min-maxed, but you could obviously tweak it with whatever works for you. So Warlord 31 here, Sprinter 14, Tenacity 27. Healthy, I put 27 here just because we are a Nord. We already have passive bonuses to health recovery, so it's pretty nice to have. Arcanist also 27, Mooncalf 64. 40 into Shadow Ward, you are going to be blocking a bit if you are soloing. And then 40 into Tumbling, you'll be doing a bit of dodge rolling as well. Just 27 into Blessed here for that increased healing. 35 into Physical Weapon Expert, 56 Master at Arms. Got 56 into Mighty, 28 Piercing, 28 Precise Strikes. 40 into Thaumaturge, just to balance because we do have a fair bit of dot skills, damage over time. We've got 56 Ironclad. I had one left over I put into Medium Armor. 56 into Hardy and Elemental Defender. 34 into Thick-Skinned. And then 35 Expert Defender, 32 Quick Recovery. Well, that about wraps it up for the Strider Stamina Warden build. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you liked what you saw, consider subscribing to the channel if you are not a subscriber already. Why the heck not? It's free, doesn't cost a thing, and it would really help me out. Think about dropping a like for the video as well, and hit me with a couple of comments. And until then, I'll see you guys around in the next video. Peace.